Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Well, good evening, folks. How's CFN tonight? How we all doing? Scottzilla. I love that, Fernando. I've never heard. I've been called many things, but Scottzilla is definitely not one of them. K-Dog, looked like you guys had a good time out on Lake Simcoe. Hope you guys caught a few fish to take home with you. I saw Tyler and Mark caught a few whitefish. What's up, Brad? How you doing? Sorry I missed you, man. Yes, all is well, my friend. But I would like to have been out on Simcoe with you guys. Hey, ladies' night. It is indeed. And we are hooked on a cure, as we always are, with Babs French and Fish Whipped Apparel. David Craig, how you doing, my friend? Way out on the West Coast. Erica, there's Erica. How you doing, Erica? Peter's in the house. How you doing, Peter? One thing I want to say right off the bat, now that I see Pete's name, guys, make sure when you're clearing snow that you stretch and take your time. This old fool thought he was 18 years old again on the weekend, and I woke up this morning and my back felt like the basket weave of the 401. She was all tied up in knots. So if you're out shoveling snow or you still got to do snow, make sure you guys are stretching, taking your time, taking a break. Try not to get it all done at once, and hopefully you won't be in the same kind of pain I am. Needless to say, you're never in pain when you come here to CFN Live every Monday. It is, as I said, ladies' night. We've got a great special guest. I'm really looking forward to talking to Rosie Turenne from the Prairie Gal Fishing. And the story behind Prairie Gal Fishing, I'm really looking forward to hearing. I from what I have understood is I'm somewhat to blame. Both Yvonne and I have big shoulders, and we're going to be carrying the load when it comes to how Rosie got that all set up. But we're going to be talking to Rosie. As I mentioned, our special guest host is, of course, the one and only Yvonne Brown from Ontario Women Anglers. She'll be joining me and talking to Rosie first. But, of course, the lads will be here as featured, as always, every Monday night. Big Jim's going to be in the house, Uncle Jim, with all his storytelling and I'm sure a few tidbits of know-how and knowledge. Lawrence has some breaking news for us when it comes to Pacific salmon and how that fishery is going to move forward. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has on that. And his Feel the Bite segment is about reels, that things you hear but never, or things you see but never hear. The new gear systems in a lot of reels are basically on silent stealth mode, if you will. So he's going to be talking about that and how it affects the Feel the Bite. Jason BARNUCZ, looking forward to his segment because it will touch on what has happened with CFN and the Winter Fish Fest. Of course, we announced the beginning of it on Friday. Mike and I, at midnight, we gave out the code, or the phrase that pays. And then, of course, midnight this morning, it started for Ontario. The lockdowns in Ontario obviously have been lifted in most of the province. However, in the GTA, it has not. It's been extended till March. So Jay's going to not only give us some 411 on how to be safe, how to make sure we're doing things properly, and if you are looking to target a trifecta, the best way to utilize and maximize a body of water to make sure that you're set up and get your best percentages of hooking that trifecta, because as I said, it counts as a ballot, some great prizes. Mike and I will be here tomorrow at 7 on Tourney Tuesdays discussing the Winter Fish Fest. And I want everyone who has partaken so far in it, the weekend especially, we put a little montage of some videos together at the end of the broadcast that I want you guys to stick around and listen to. It's pretty cool. Some of the submissions are pretty cool. And it's great to see the families out. That, you know what, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, getting the families out. And all I can say is a big shout out, thank you to the Lowen family, who I don't know how they crammed all those kids in the hut. Like, you know, every single kid, I think, is in that hut. And it seemed like every single one of them caught a fish. Anyway, stay tuned to the end of the broadcast. We're going to be playing that montage. It's pretty darn cool. Nicole's in the house. How you doing? Jeanette, yeah, baby. How you doing, Kevin? I hope you just heard what I had to say. Yeah, absolutely. Juliet, nice to see you. Cheers to Rosie. Yes, we'll be getting to her momentarily. And some of the other great guests that we feature each and every week here on Monday Live. Obviously, to start with, I want to thank Cameron Tate for joining us last Thursday for Cooking with Cameron. That was an incredible goose recipe that featured baked to go crispy Cajun, and it was well received. Your feedback from that telecast was incredible. So big thanks to Cameron for doing that recipe, and of course all of you that joined. I think we had 3,000 views on it. So big shout out, thank you to all of you who joined, and for everyone to put an answer in the comments to what Haley's fundraiser has currently raised, or at least at that point. We got some great guesses. I think, Jeanette, you had one that was in the 40,000 mark. And I'll tell you, the Snyder family sure wishes they were up in the 40,000 mark, but they are over the moon at where they are currently. And I believe Haley just returned home from the hospital, so she's doing well. It looked like she was in great spirits. So, again, the Snyder family is kicking arse and taking names. And the winner of Thursday's contest was the one who guessed $200 and, well, as close as to $10,271. And I believe Tony Sizanowski was just outside of the $100 mark. And he is our winner of the Crispy Cajun Baked to Go Outdoor Flavors gift pack. Tony, don't worry. I've got your address. You've won so many friggin' prizes from CFN. I swear I have it on speed dial. So we will be sending you out that prize pack with the Crispy Cajun. Congratulations to Tony, and congratulations to the Snyder family as well as CFN and everybody that contributed and has contributed to Haley's fundraiser. $10,271 to date has been raised. Holy smokes. That's all I can say. On a somber note, you may have seen a post on the weekend for a buddy of mine, and I've never met him, although I have spoken to two great people that paid their respects in the post. And a big shout out, thank you to Ryan Lawrence Kuklinski as well as Bill White. Their messages on Caleb's post really hit home, and you get an idea of what this young angler meant to our angling community. In just an incredible gent. And I was just speaking to his mom sort of via social media, and what an inspiration this kid is or was. And he is going to be sadly missed. That's about all I could say, but a big shout out to Ryan and Bill for offering up, because I couldn't think of anybody better from our community to talk about what Caleb Clark Davies meant to our angling community, our smally knit angling community. And I'll tell you, it was gut-wrenching reading some of that. But of course, Caleb will be missed. Our condolences to his family and all his friends. I know Ryan's taking it pretty hard, as well as Bill, and I'm sure everybody else in this close-knit community is doing exactly the same. So we hope that there's better days and easier days ahead for all of you. But keep Caleb and his family in your thoughts. Unfortunately, we lost a good one. On a happier note, I can't say enough about the people who have been working feverishly to get this together. Our CFN jersey is ready. It's ready for purchase. As I said, I can't say enough about the people who have managed to put it together. But let's see if I can call up and give you guys a sneak peek on what it is going to look like. And I got to find the overlay. Where's the overlay? There it is. There's the overlay. So I don't know if you can see the cursor, but this is the front of the jersey. Beautiful new logo, updated by our very own Walter Huck, as well as our incredible and gracious sponsors on the very front. These are 4 big heavy hitters that have come to the plate and have helped out in an immense way when it comes to the CFN fish-off. Can't thank these incredible people enough. Spoke to Scott Martin today from MFS, and he's actually on board now for more than what he had promised. So our CFN community continues to benefit from it. But this is what the front is going to look like. If I am not mistaken, your first name is going to go right about there. Okay. So this is a template. The newest feature, obviously, is the provincial logo, as you see on the shoulders. This is something that we needed to incorporate in order for our provinces and our chapters to be identified with the CFN jersey. And the Shimano logoing, as you see, this, of course, is the left arm, this being the right arm. As you can tell, there is a long shirt version and a short version. Both have the Shimano logo on, as well as your provincial logo. And then this is the back of the jersey. CFN Pro logo is going right in the center. And then, of course, these are our additional sponsors here who help out with prizes and various other financial commitments. But we can't thank you guys enough, and we can't do this all without you. So we figured let's make a flag, which is our jersey, and let's wave this darn thing around like it is what it is. And as I said, for all who have purchased in the past and are going to be purchasing in the future, thank you. As I said, we try to keep the cost down to these as much as possible, and we don't make a lot of money off this. This is about getting the word out there. Some of you, like myself, have made yourselves human billboards, and we want to get a sticker on all of you that says a little bit something about CFN and CFN Proud. So if you want to purchase one, Richard Dunlop is the individual that you need to get a hold of. He will be making a post momentarily. I know it's going to be something that is shared over various other platforms. So if you're interested in a CFN jersey, by all means, reach out to Richard Dunlop. He will be taking care of all of it. And I want to thank Richard, as well as Walter and Dave Haldine, for making this all possible. The photo contest, CFN photo for the month of February. You have one more day. It is actually coming to an end at midnight. So right after this broadcast, if you have a photo that you want to enter, and when I say enter, it's obviously something that we want to theme towards the winter because it is February, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be a young angler. It doesn't have to be family necessarily. It could be a cool shot. I know Mark Elbeck put in a pretty cool shot that is going to be high on my short list. So as I said, have a look at some of the submissions so far, and basically go from there. When you see it, hopefully you'll be able to put a post in there. And the one that's chosen that you see right now featured on our profile is going to be in the CFN calendar, which will be out in 2022. So it's not just for bragging rights. You're actually going to see yourself in a calendar. So make sure you tune into that and have a look at that. Outside of those announcements, I think I'm pretty much done. Anybody have any questions that I haven't seen? We're proud. Yes, absolutely. While fishing, especially during, yes, absolutely, Kevin. It is a wicked looking jersey. As I said, some fantastic logos on it. And Walter had to work very, very hard to get that all ready and Jersey worthy, as they say. James Shembry's in the house. James, tomorrow at Tourney Tuesday, we are going to be featuring some of the prizes that are up and available for the Winter Fish Fest. So tune in tomorrow. We've got a handful of them, and Mike and I will be discussing all that tomorrow. As I said, that is it for me. Let us bring in Yvonne, our special co-host for tonight's CFN Live. Yvonne, how you doing tonight?
I am well. How about yourself, Scotty?
Oh, living the dream, Yvonne, one day at a time.
That's for sure.
As I said, if for all those who have got a driveway to shovel because we got a good dump of the snow, I don't know how much you got out there.
A lot, yeah.
Take her easy. That's all I could say. Take her easy. We're not 18 anymore.
No, I know. Driving was terrible this morning.
It was, and from what I understand, it's not over. Like, I believe that we're getting maybe a little bit more on Wednesday, possibly another dumping on the weekend. It just seems like there's going to be one storm after another. So, for all those who have been talking about global warming, just ask our folks down in Texas about global warming. I'm sure you might get shot mentioning that, but it has been what they said it was going to be as a typical winter, lots of snow and some cold temperatures. And with that, obviously, we get out on the hard water. Have you managed to get out and what a line past weekend?
Yeah, I was out this weekend. There's a lot of slush out there, and I saw a lot of different posts from various lakes. I got the ATV stuck twice, and we just ended up and even tried to, like, we had a kind of a path to walk on, and when you try to go off the path, there was like a foot of snow, about 3 inches of white ice, which was crap, about 6 inches of slush under that, and then 12 to 15 inches of clear ice. But it just made like drilling holes and everything impossible. You were standing in water pretty much.
Yeah, just before we came on air, I was talking to Jason, same thing, lots of slush, I believe up to his knees, he mentioned. So yeah, that makes jumping from hole to hole difficult, setting up a base camp even more difficult. But yeah, for a diehard angler, hard water angler, it is definitely a trek to get out there and enjoy some hard water angling. And it sounds like it's going to be here for a while yet. Because as I said, the cold weather and snowstorms that are still looming would suggest that spring is still a long ways away. So I don't know what shadow that gopher saw, but I have my sneaking suspicions he was on a bit of a bender the night before.
We actually have a 2-day tournament. Actually, you can fish one or both days. This coming weekend, it's the Ontario Women Anglers Ice Fishing Challenge. Like I said, 27th, 28th of February. We have over $1,500 in prizes. We have an adult category as well as a kids category, and there is two groups of fish. Well, one we just named sunfish, mostly because the kids are used to, calling everything like a bluegill, pumpkin seed. They call them sunfish. So bluegill and pumpkin seed are one category under sunfish, and then perch is another category. We have top 3 in each category for both adults and kids. We have prizes for that. And in addition, even if you don't end up in the top 3, we have 2 draws for a $200 package, ice fishing package. It's a rod and reel combo, a rod glove, and a Shimano Baltica tackle bag.
Wow.
So I'll post the link. Actually, I got it here somewhere. There, I'll post the link in the comment section. If you're interested, right now we have almost 20 adults and 6 kids registered.
Right on.
And we're hoping to get a few more.
And so this is the link to register. Do you have to be from Ontario, Canada? Can you be from the US to enter?
We put it has to be Ontario, Manitoba, and Quebec, because that's where our members are right now.
Gotcha.
It is you have to be an OWA member, and you can sign up with children as well. So the children that you register have to be fishing with an OWA member.
Okay, right on.
Of course,
on the OWA theme, Steve Shaw just asked a good question. Yvonne, I have been asked if you have to be a member of OWA to purchase OWA apparel.
No, we don't. And we don't hold a lot of, we don't hold stock. So usually we do a call out for people who want to buy apparel. I have a few things, but we just don't have like revenue to hold a lot of stock. So we have some things available online, and then every once in a while I ask if anybody's interested in like the zipped hoodies and the fleece hoodie or fleece jackets and t-shirts, hoodies, whatever.
So in regards to the tournament, we'll go over it quickly again. Can anybody enter in terms of age?
Kids 17 and under.
Okay.
And then adults, obviously 18 and older. And again, they have to be, it is an OWA tournament, so it's members only. And I mean, you can go out, your spouse or your partner can go out and fish with you, but they can't register for the tournament if they're not an OWA member.
Gotcha. Right on. And how many, this is what, your second or third year that you've ran this?
Well, this was supposed to be an 8-week challenge.
Oh, okay.
And we had 10 species. And then with all the different things happening with COVID, we just said we couldn't do it. But we tried to squeeze in something. And this is probably the best that we can do, especially now, like now the lakes have got kind of slushed up. It's going to be challenging, but I hope people will still go out and get fish.
Yeah, and this is it. As I said, I know I leaned on you when it came to the decision about the Winter Fish Fest. So
yeah,
I know how hard it is to make these kind of decisions. They're not easy.
No,
especially when you have health officials that are paid far more than you and I to make sure that we're safe and make sure we're not passing on a virus that could potentially kill somebody. So yeah, tough decisions, but I'd like to say that the angling community is they're an intelligent group. They know what they need to do. They know what not to do. And anybody that aspires to OWA or CFN certainly has their head screwed on right. So we expect all of you anglers in that tournament as well as ours to do the right thing. And we wish you all well.
I just noticed Tricia asked a question about our Master Angler program because we had shut that down with all the provincial restrictions. I think until the entire province is out of shutdown, because there still is areas that they still have a stay-at-home order, we won't be able to open up that program because it's just not fair to those who are living in areas that are not allowed to travel. I mean, really, all of us are not allowed to travel, but some of them are more restricted.
And that's right. And Jason BARNUCZ is going to be talking later on in the show in regards to that. And how, as anglers, we can approach that, because it is, as I said, it's a gray area, pardon the pun, and a fine line. Obviously, it's easy to just say stay at home, but that's not necessarily exactly what is being said. So we're going to kind of thread the needle and figure it all out with our good buddy Jason later on. Now, sorry, Yvonne, do you have any other announcements?
I just have one thing. It was with regards, like we do a draw every ladies' night. I'm just going to show you what's up for grabs. So we have a Shimano 500 reel, a spool of the Power Pro Ice Tech, the rod glove. And what I've been doing lately is, you've probably seen these. Whoops. It's the catch fishing. There we go. Catch fishing booklet. It was written by Rick Amsbury, and it's sent out by the hang on a second. Well, it was sponsored by the Canadian National Sportsman and Foundation, but Lucky Strike supports it. Oh my gosh, the name of the organization has Sports Fishing Industry Association. That's what it is. They distribute it. So what I do now is I put 3 in with the giveaway. So the winner, if they don't have one already, is to keep one, and then they have to pass on 2 to somebody else, either in their family or friends, or just to kind of share the resources. So awesome. I'll be posting a question probably tomorrow, and it will be something from Rosie's interview.
There you go. So Tony, you just got your question answered. So stay tuned. Stay tuned, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, he won again tonight and wins on a regular basis. But, he does the work, and I tip my hat to him. He is what I don't know what it is. He's like a magnet when it comes to these giveaways. I don't know where he finds them. I honestly don't. So, Yvonne, before we bring in our special guest, I tried to find out as much information about Rosie as I possibly could, and it was a swing and a miss. obviously she is a very modest person. Tell us a little bit about what she means to you.
Well, she reached out to me in, I think it was around August 2018, and she was doing interviews with women anglers for her thesis that she was doing. She went to, and she can correct me if I'm wrong here, Royal Roads University in Manitoba, and her thesis was called Women Fish Too, Increasing the Competitiveness of a Northwestern Ontario Tourist Destination. And tourism is her background. She's been involved in that that community. I don't know if it's 20 or 30 years. It was on the website, but we ended up meeting in person about a month later. It was a Wisconsin Women Fish event up near Kenora. She traveled from Winnipeg. We traveled a lot further, and she was going to interview Barb Carey, who we have had on the show. And I happened to be there, and so she interviewed me as well. So a very lovely lady, and since that time, and I think she'll talk about this more, she started a business called Praire Gal Fishing, and she can give us all the details. So
Right on. Well, that's a heck of a segue. Let's bring her in right now. Rosie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I hear you guys, talking about your weather, and I'm in balmy Winnipeg. It was like 8 or 9 degrees here today. So, and with
really,
36,
it was that.
Yeah,
warm?
yeah. Wow. It was minus 40 on Valentine's Day, without the wind chill, and then today it was like short weather here in Winnipeg. So yeah, it was great.
Smokes.
Now you're out in Manitoba, as you just mentioned, and you fish Big Windy on a regular basis. How much ice is out on Lake Winnipeg right now?
It's not that thick this year. We've got, we had a pretty mild winter up until the cold snap. So I've got about 32 to, I'd say 32 inches of ice right now. So it depends where you are on the lake, but overall a good 30 inches everywhere. There's still some thin ice spots on the river, and they're actually starting to chop up the river this week to get it ready to make sure it doesn't flood and that kind of thing. So yeah. But I'm on solid ice.
And just before Yvonne asked you the first question, there was it was posted on Facebook. There was quite the pressure crack that opened up. I believe it was on the west side of Lake Winnipeg. Did anybody get stranded? Because it seemed like it was quite wide at one point.
Yeah. They were able to rescue everyone. They put planks down and got everybody across. But it was crazy that I don't know I think that picture went viral. These guys that were in the tent in this, like go and buy a lottery ticket. Like, what are the odds? You're on one of the biggest lakes on the planet, and this crack, which could have been anywhere on the lake, goes through your tent. Like, I thought, oh my God, new pair of pants and go and buy a lottery ticket.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
And so I think Steve Shaw has posted links to your the Prairie Gal Fishing webpage, the webpage and the Facebook page. And I was reading a little bit on the About Me page of the website. And I was just reading about you working at fishing lodges to help pay for your university education. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I didn't grow up fishing. My dad didn't fish. I never fished at home or, with my siblings or anything like that. So I always had an interest in it. I was a tomboy, growing up and stuff, and always wanted to fish, but there was nobody to teach me. I had one uncle or two uncles in Kenora that brought me once. And I remember that first, I'm sure it was a jack, that I brought in. But yeah, I got a job working at a fishing lodge, and I thought, what a great way to enjoy nature and save money. And thankfully, one of the guides, because we were the cabin girls, right? That's what the women did. But the guide, this one guide, he was such a sweetheart, and he would take me out virtually every day and would teach me and the other woman that I worked with how to fish. And that's really where it all started, like how to tie a knot and how to, whatever. So and that was the start of it.
Then you were away for fishing for quite some time?
For a very long time. Yeah. So basically we got a place just outside of Kenora, and we have we have this beautiful little place that came with a fishing boat. And so it got me kind of back into it after a long hiatus, and just fell really back in love with the sport. And luckily I'm a tourism instructor. I've been doing that for about 20 years now, and I get summers off. So it's allows me a lot of hours on the water. So I'm fortunate.
It's great.
Not such a
So what types of fishing do you get to do? Whether it's ice or open season, or any species that you like to target, or any techniques, like whether it's trolling or steelheading, creek fishing. What types of fishing do you enjoy?
Well, really, targeting walleye is my favorite for sure. And, I think, yes. And, I really enjoy the finesse part of it, right? And starting to sort them out. I mean, it takes a long time to figure these guys out and to read structure and everything else. So I'm getting better at it as I go. But for sure, summer walleye, and, of course, the greenbacks on Lake Winnipeg. So in summer, I'm in Northwestern Ontario. In the winter, I'm, Winnipeg and Lake Winnipeg. I mean, it's less than an hour drive to be where you can be getting these greenbacks, right? And so, that's clearly what I target. But I'm starting to get into bass as well. So that's something I'm learning. But there's a lot to learn. So that's coming along. But finesse fishing for bass is kind of my new thing that I'm starting to get into.
And you and I had even talked about you coming to Ontario and spending some time together and going out in the boat in the lakes in our area and doing some bass fishing. So one day you can come here, and I can go to Lake Winnipeg and catch the greenbacks with you.
You got a deal. That sounds great.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the thesis that you wrote while you were in university?
Yeah, so just to explain, like I've been studying for a long time, and I decided to do my master's in tourism management at Royal Roads University, which is actually just outside of Victoria, BC. So my thesis was not supposed to be on what it ended up being on. It was completely going in a different direction. And for 2 years, I was leading up to doing something called placemaking anyway. And I had met with the city of Kenora and had a conversation with the economic development officer there. And I just couldn't nail down my question. And I got back to the lake, and a couple of my friends had come over, and we were fishing, and we were complaining about how much money we just spent on all this fishing stuff. And I had literally this eureka moment. Like, we were these three middle-aged women in a boat. And I thought, there's something here. And that's where it all started. And then when I started doing the exploratory research, this first phase of research, I came across you two in a podcast. And that's kind of what got me totally going into this. So it's your fault.
It's Yvonne's fault.
Yeah.
I'll take half the blame.
Right on.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, Rosie, when it comes to targeting walleye, and I love that you are a walleye fanatic, much like myself, and I have not targeted big windy walleye yet. It is definitely a bucket list, knock on wood. I'm going to be there at some point because they are definitely a unique fish. And if you're a lover of walleye, there are walleye, and then there are greenbacks. I would say the closest thing that we have to your greenbacks is what we catch out of the Bay of Quinte. You do see similar fish out of Lake Erie in terms of the off colors, the opaque color walleye, but in terms of size, sheer size, Bay of Quinte comes to mind, and that is definitely the closest trophy walleye fishery that we have. But when it comes to targeting big windy walleye, what are some of your go-tos, and what are some of your favorite presentations?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like, just to be clear, this all started, like the ice fishing piece started from finishing my thesis. And my thesis was all about women in fishing. And I did a CBC interview, French CBC, and it went really well after I had just finished this. And it happened to be Black Friday. So I left there and I went to Cabela's and I got all the ice fishing stuff going. I like summer fishing. I'm going to love this. And when I got all the stuff, and the first person who brought me ice fishing was the CBC host. So that's 2 years ago. Or 2.5, let's say 3 years ago. So it's all very new to me. So in terms of presentation style in this, I'm still learning, but I think, with a lake that size, if you're not on them, especially if you're fishing in a shack, you need to call them in. And so, there's going to be crankbaits or that sort of thing to get them close. And then once they're there, people have had different success doing different things. A go-to for me is still a jig and a minnow. I've probably caught more fish with that or a flutter spoon than, you can spend as much money as you want, but nothing beats it, and lately tiny tungsten with the minnow by the tail on a dead stick has been what's been catching fish for me. So, who knows, absolutely. Right? Like they're finicky. They're finicky and they're different than summer walleye, and the feel is different, the bite's different, and I still haven't gotten my monster. So I've gone out with another fantastic outfitter out here with Matt Hobson, who has the snow bears. Okay. And we've gone out a few times and tried to get me that big fish, and it just hasn't happened yet, but it'll happen. It'll happen.
Absolutely. Big Windy is definitely offering up some trophies on a regular basis, and we have the luxury of posting them via some of our legacy members who do our photo edits. And I swear I can't get over how many trophies that lake has the ability to pump out on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I've, out of my shack this winter, we've caught 2 master angler whitefish, and that was a complete surprise. Like, what are they doing there? So that was great. And myself and a 9-year-old caught them. So, that was pretty fun.
Through your travels, obviously, as you were learning, much like we all did at one point or another, but obviously you're starting a little bit later in the game, which is kind of cool. It's a different aspect. And being a lady angler, can you give any anglers, lady anglers in specific, some great resources that they can look up to find out some of the stuff that you're learning, that you have sort of catapulted and used yourself to get to where you are as an angler?
Well, you bring up a really good point. I learned to fish later in life, but 35%, this was one of my findings, 35% of women actually learn to fish later in life. Not all of us learn as kids. And that's one of the reasons I started this business was, who is your mentor? Who's your CBC host that happens to take you out to learn how to fish? Who is that person? And so that's part of the reason I started this business, was to really be that person, that point of contact where people can go, I have no idea what I'm doing. What's an auger? Like, what are you talking about? So for me, my main resource has been joining these 2 amazing clubs with Ontario Women Anglers and Why Women Fish in Wisconsin. Those are my 2 main, so incredibly open with information. Find an angling club, find somebody. There's amazing resources, of course, on YouTube and everywhere. But by having these clubs are such the sisterhood, like there's so much information there, and it's different. They're so open, like I see these chats on some of these Facebook pages that aren't part of the clubs, and they're snippy and they're cocky, and we don't get that. It's not the same. It's very much a sharing of information. So that's been very helpful. So I'd encourage, some of the ladies to check that out, and to not be afraid to ask questions and reach out. Like, find an angler that you trust and that you like. Like, I think one of the best anglers here in Manitoba is a guy named Steve Dick, and nobody knows who he is because he's not a social media guy. I don't think he has a Facebook account. And he's taught me so much. And just through this generous, donation of time, and that's awesome. That's all you need, is that one person. And I want to be that person for people who don't have a person.
Speaking of the clubs, and some people already know this, but Ontario Women Anglers has a closed a group there, and there's over 1,000 ladies in it, and it's all women from mostly Ontario, but some from other provinces and in the States. And it's a perfect place to post questions and ask for advice, but also to find other ladies in your community that may fish, near where you live, or learn a different type of fishing from someone in your community. So, if people are looking for that type of forum, we have our public page, but we have that closed group that's available as well. I was going to ask, so how did the Prairie Gal fishing, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, you talked a little bit about why it started, but what it is? And I know COVID, I think this is your first year, right?
Yeah, it's brand new. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so to explain, like I work as a tourism instructor. I've worked in tourism management my whole life. You know, and I've also helped, I work as a consultant helping entrepreneurs, this kind of thing. And so winter's here long, like we've got ice for a long time. So we need to keep busy. And so we, you know, I took up ice fishing. I really enjoyed it, but you know, Big Windy, when it's got that name for a reason. And it can be cold and it can be dangerous. And you know, I thought a shack would be nice. And then, you know, again, being part of these clubs, just realizing that there is this need, I really want to mesh these ideas. And so that's how it kind of came to be. So I applied for my outfitter's license. And anyway, long story short, I got it in December. And with COVID, we're really limited. So I've had to pivot, and I do shack rentals, and I can do, you know, outdoor lessons, but again, it's weather dependent, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's really gearing up more for next year, I think. But I am capable of doing some, you know, all-inclusive type of bookings, and also definitely ability to be with one-on-one, you know, and warm up in the shack and that kind of thing. The shack's huge, like it's 16 feet long, and it has a porta potty inside of it. So that's kind of the because it is the number one question that women ask. How do you pee in the middle of a lake? And so I have the answer.
That's great. It's a great idea. So the shack, did you have someone build the shack? Were you part of that, or?
Yeah, so I went to see a shack and I really loved it. And the guy was just wonderful. And he too had a family business. He had to pivot because of COVID. Started making these shacks, and I said, "Can you build it to spec?" And he was so excited. He was excited by this business idea. And I said, I want it to be pretty. So I have a very pretty fishing shack, and he's been wonderful too. He still keeps in touch. He brought it out for me. He's going to store it for me over summer, and wonderful. I've got a guy who plows the way to the shack, because not all of my clients, you know, are going to have a quad or a truck, right? So so it's meant to be accessible and available to people, to anyone who wants to try ice fishing. You know, it doesn't have to be, you don't need the monster truck, you don't need the snowmobile, you don't need it all, right? You just need to get out there. And that's my main message. Just get out there, try it. You might love it. Yeah.
And do you think that this will evolve into sort of guided open water fishing for you?
Great question. I'm not there yet, for sure. You know, I still have, like I said, a lot to learn for myself, and I'm not prepared to do that just yet. But you know, who knows what the future holds? I'd love to. You know, I'm starting to think about retirement, several years away still, but certainly, even with the job I have now, it does permit me to have summers available to do that sort of thing. But I really like fishing by myself with my dog.
It's funny that you say that, because you know that's pretty much how it starts for most guides and charter companies, that all of a sudden, you know what, I enjoy it so much that I'm going to start bringing people out. And then of course there's a lot of stuff that comes with it, and you have to deal with certain people and what have you, and it doesn't necessarily make it for a fun day on the water. But I'll tell you, I tip my hat to all you charter captains, outfitters, guides. You are a rare breed. And I tell you, the amount of information that you pass on to all anglers, not just us novice anglers who are learning, but all anglers, we truly appreciate, and we can't give you enough props. And but for someone, you know, Rosie, you're going down a road. I think this is so cool, because we have a lot of young CFN lady anglers, and you know, might be inspired by what you're saying tonight, and they might need, as I said, that springboard to take, you know, the bull by the horns, if you will, and become what you are. Now, obviously, you've taken a different road. You wrote a thesis, and you've got an education to back you as well. But just to have the passion, what suggestions can you give some of our young female anglers on taking the same road that you are?
I think, you know, you have to try it. I think there's this intimidation factor, and it's changing. You know, this was part of my research too. Like right now, 27% of license holders in Canada and the US overall are women. And the estimate is that by 2030 will be 50%. That's pre-COVID stats. So, you know, it might be faster right now, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is there's an interest and there's a desire. And what I am noticing is if I was to do my study even today compared to 2 years ago, we're seeing a huge difference in how the industry is acting and reacting to women, changing the language from fisherman to angler. Like those small things make a difference. Seeing lots of visuals of women. That was part of my study too, right? It was looking at how many catalogs had pictures of women in a boat. Well, I can tell you that again, had I done it this year, like it's crazy. So industry has bought into it. And it's that whole idea of if you can see it, you can be it, right? And I think that little kids, you know, it's different today. I think there's equal numbers of boys and girls who are fishing growing up. Take a kid fishing. That whole idea of take a kid fishing is awesome. But I want you to just take somebody fishing. I have introduced so many adult women that are retired who are like, this is what I'm going to do in my retirement now. And that's what I want to do. I just get out there, try it. You know, and you might love it. That's all I can say. You know?
I couldn't have answered it any better myself, but you're 100% right. Take someone fishing. It doesn't necessarily, a little boy, a little girl, it doesn't matter. Take somebody fishing, pass the passion on, because I'll tell you, you know, we are the stewards. You know, even though you're new to the game, Rosie, you are a steward and a mentor to someone. You may have not found who that is yet, but eventually somewhere along the way, we are mentoring somebody. I know Yvonne mentors many anglers, both female and male. So we have our work cut out for us, because without this next gen of CFN and OWA and Manitoba anglers, our industry is going to look a lot different than it already does. So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
And are there other clubs and organizations in Manitoba that you are connected with?
I had joined when I first started. I just joined everything. You know, I was part of Manitoba Bass Anglers and Manitoba Nature Federation. I had a membership for like 1,000 different things. And to be frank, you know, the two that I really kept up with, where I was really involved, of all places, is Wisconsin and you, Yvonne, in Southern Ontario. Those are the two memberships that I really adhere to and that I'm very involved with. I would like to get more involved, definitely, with the local chapters here in Manitoba for sure. Absolutely, I'd like to be part of this community, and I'd love for you, Yvonne, to have a Northwestern Ontario chapter. I think that would be really awesome.
Well, I'm been thinking about that more and more. There is a group of ladies up in the Thunder Bay area. I know that there's some up in the Kenora area, and I think it would be. I mean, obviously, it's not a place that I can just jump in the car and go to. So I think it would be definitely worth looking into, having some representatives up there to run sort of an OWA chapter in Northwestern Ontario / Manitoba.
That's a great idea.
Awesome stuff. Well, listen, Rosie, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight and sharing, your story. Your passion and the road that has brought you to us tonight. And just as always, Yvonne, it has been a great story to tell and to listen to.
Thanks, you guys.
Very happy to have Rosie on the show. Lovely lady. And I look forward to working with you in the future. And like I said, we'll do a home at home, walleye, bass. It'd be good.
Sounds great. Maybe we can Zoom fish. I don't know if that's a thing, but we'll try.
Good. Probably good.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Rosie. You take care. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All the best. Yvonne, again, what a great guest. I love the passion. You can tell she's new at it. Like, she's new into it, right? But she has the education behind it, and she's a respectable woman. And I'll tell you, a great representative of our industry, no matter how little or whatever she knows. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be an expert to be a good mentor in this industry. So
no.
pick a good one.
When I started before it became Ontario Women Anglers, when I had the Fishing 101 for Women program, I didn't really know a lot. I knew enough to get people started. And I had a great mentor, Jason Lush, and I had others along the way. But yeah, I had, maybe a bit beyond the basics, but it was enough to get other women started. And I think that you just have to have the ability to reach out and say, I'm not much different than you, and I can teach you as much as I know, and then you can kind of go on your own from there.
Well, and the fact that she has started Prairie Gal Fishing, I don't want to label her as an unseasoned angler, but she loves angling so much that she wants to pass this on to others, even as little as she may know. She understands the importance of passing on that passion and getting people fishing. So, I tell you, great representative OWA and our maritime provinces. Fantastic.
And I just wanted to say again, we have the giveaway. I'll post a question tomorrow. I'll send it to you. And it's for a Sienna Reel, the Rod Glove, and the Power Pro Ice Tech line. So look for that tomorrow.
Fan-friggin-tastic. Well, as always, Yvonne, you hit it out of the park, and I don't know how you're going to do it. I keep saying this, but you're setting that bar awfully high, each and every guest that you bring on. But I look forward to March's guest and who we're going to be talking to next. But thanks so much for bringing Rosie on. This was great. I really enjoyed it tonight.
Okay, have a good night, Scotty.
All right, Yvonne, all the best. And here's a word from our sponsor before we bring on Uncle Big Jim. Big Jim in the house, getting her done. How you doing, my friend?
Well, I was going to have a snooze there, but we'll do this instead. Hey, isn't that lady inspiring?
Dude, you know what? All of the ladies that Yvonne brings on here are a treat to talk to. And yes, absolutely. They're just, passion is just oozing out of their pores, man. I love it.
Yeah, she was really cool. I liked her. She just seemed like a good person, not pretentious or anything, It's really, really cool.
Well, Jim, how many, I would say, lady anglers do you know that are sort of new into angling, but have taken it and understood the need to pass on the passion, so much so that she's started Prairie Gal Fishing, has her own hut that's 16 feet long.
I know, I heard that. I was listening.
Who does that? That's amazing.
It was funny. I was about halfway through. I went right to my phone and I sent her a friend request, and I liked her page and everything. It was just really, really cool because these people are out there and you don't know they're there, She mentioned about a guy that had given her a lot of help, and he's not a social media guy. He's not a big time tournament guy. Probably people would know who he is or something, And it's just really, really cool to see stuff like that because, the first year that I fished in the tournaments, I won the Canadian Championship. So there's a lot of people out there that may not be fishing tournaments and that people don't know that are really, really good fishermen. They've learned how to fish. Yeah. And that's, I just think that's really, really cool. when you get people. Yeah. No, that's good. She was just an inspiration. I got all fuzzy. It was cool.
It's so true, and
and she's got the queen with her there with Yvonne. You know, I mean, she's just done and continues to do so much good. It's scary, eh? So it's
you're 100% right, and you've always been a big proponent, and of course I've learned that from you.
You knew that. You knew I was like that before you knew me,
buddy. I listen, as I said, I'll never forget, and it's a story I'll tell till the day I die. Sitting in the Sportsman Show breakfast with Hurricane Hazel, she walks in, and I said to you, I leaned over and said to you, Jim, where are all the female anglers? Are there no female anglers? And you turned to me and said, buddy, that's bang on. If we don't get female anglers into this industry is going to die. And I'll tell you, it has been a 180 ever since that comment. You have mentored a movement of ladies and helped a movement of ladies get into this industry. And I'll tell you, bud, they can't say enough about you. So good on you.
Proud of it.
Attaboy. So what have you been up to, man?
Oh, just doing a lot of stuff. I was out to the gym early this morning, and Tammy went skating. It was all good. And we came home and did a whole bunch of stuff, starting to work on the spring issue of Just Fishing. So it was, this is like email time. Probably on, I would assume Thursday afternoon. I'll spend a day in hell on my computer, and I'll send like 70 emails, contact things with people. So it's okay, but it drives me nuts sometimes. But after 30 years almost, and that's like, Jim, give us an idea how long you've been at this from a social media standpoint, because of course, guys like yourself who started into this industry when you did, social media was something that came along the way. How long have you been active in social media now? That's a good question. I get stuff shows up in my memories from 2008, 2007 often, stuff like that. So it's been a while. Back when I was just old, not really old.
Oh.
You're right, Tony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But as I said, you've got you've got a good presence on social media, and of course, I'm sure you have seen your fair share of stuff, as we'll say, throughout the years, the keyboard warriors and what have you. But
Mom, bring me another pita pocket.
Yeah,
he's down on the. I love that meme. That's the best one ever.
Yeah. Well, you bring a great sense of professionalism, and one thing I can honestly say that our community truly loves is that you go back during these live feeds, during your segment especially, and you'll answer questions that we may not get to during the live feed. But as I said, guys, if you do have questions, by all means, throw them in the comments. And Uncle Jim,
you still have me blocked on the CFN page, though.
You still can't get on?
I have to go through back doors. I have to go to different parts to get in. Like if I just click on it and go to it, I get there, how it comes up, I start scrolling, and I get to the point where the post will start to come up, and the little thing will go around from now until the end of the year. Just keep circling. I had a guy look at it that's a Facebook wizard. I don't even know him. I knew him through fishing, and he messaged me here after hearing me talk about it today. And I met up with him one day in a parking lot, and we extended arms, and I gave him the phone. And 20 minutes later, he handed it back to me, and he says, "Boy, do I feel like an idiot." He told me it would be an easy fix. He thought there's just some little thing in there that,
It wouldn't have anything to do with the Wi-Fi, would it, Jim? No,
it's okay. Everywhere. It's regardless of where I go. Yeah.
That's well, as I said, speaking of everywhere you go. It seems like the common theme that a lot of hardwater anglers are talking about, of course, is the amount of slush that's on the ice. And, for us, heavier set, walking around in that slush can take its toll. What's some of the advice that you can give anglers? Like, is snowshoes a recommendation at this point?
Well, it's really funny you should say that, because I saw a guy fishing on the St. Lawrence here the other day, and I was absolutely dismayed to watch somebody go down to the shore on the St. Lawrence River, which 3 weeks ago was wide open. I was watching bald eagles fight fish ducks for the fish. Like, it was incredible to watch. And we actually watched a flock of bald eagles in downtown Gananoque. Like, there had to be a dozen of them. all swirling around over the water, and we're looking out. I'm looking closer and further out, thinking to myself, there's a bunch of ducks out there. I don't know what kind of ducks they are, some kind of fish duck, I guess. But they're out there, and the eagles were obviously stealing the fish as soon as they'd come up with them. And as soon as an eagle would steal a fish, the other eagles would go to him to try to steal it. And we're watching eagles like tumbling in the air, and then you'd see the fish drop to the water, and like 6 eagles just zoom down. They go for it. It was just incredible to watch. But that's wide open like that. And I watched a guy. He had snowshoes on. I don't know much about snowshoes. The little ones, the round ones with the metal frame.
Yeah.
And he went down. He put those on. He's got a bucket, a little hand auger, everything, a backpack with all. He must have had. I'm not kidding. I thought it was Izumi at first. There must have been 35 rods sticking out of this bank.
Oh. Wow.
I looked at it. Tammy was in the truck with me. We have a little spot that we sit and have a coffee whenever we go shopping, because it's really not much to do. And so we always take a little break and grab a coffee and go down by the river. And I said to her, "My God, I can't believe how many rods that guy's got." And anyways, I watched him strap on snowshoes and just walk out like 200 yards on the river.
Wow.
Not a thought. And I mean, I knew where he was walking because it's covered in snow now. And in front of the river was frozen first, and then a little further out, you could even see the roughness in the snow still. It's where all the pieces of ice were floating down and jamming up. And he walked right out onto it and was fishing out there. And I thought to myself, wow. And then when he was coming back, I noticed him because he went out, he drilled the hole, and I don't know whether he scared himself by how little ice there was, but he came back in about halfway, and he was sitting on the bucket that he had, and he was taking his snowshoes and banging them on the side of the bucket, and I think they were full of slush.
Yeah.
I think it had frozen around it and whatever else. But yeah, it's the only thing you could do. Something that's really important. I always just do it too. If I thought there was going to be slush and stuff like that, I would. I always brought a shovel with me, a little fold-up shovel. If we had unless we were just doing the bucket brigade to some back place or something, I always brought a little shovel, and it's amazing. You can always clear yourself out a little spot just to stand on. And it helps. And once you get the snow on the ice, it's going to happen. And I assume it's going to get worse here because we got a little bit warmer weather coming this weekend.
Yeah.
And I noticed today the water running down the street out here toward the lake. It was just a deluge. It got up like the sun came out between the squalls or storm, whatever it is, and the water was running down the street. So it's running down all the streets. It's running everywhere. The water's going to go in. Yeah. And when the water comes up, that's why sometimes you'll see that water on top is a little bit murky, and it's usually from not always, but a lot of times it's just the weight of the snow pushing down too. You don't realize you go out on a bay and you add 10 inches of snow on it.
Yeah,
it looks like fluffy stuff, but you put it in a pile and realize how heavy that snow is.
Amen.
It's unreal, but you really got to be careful in slush. I know guys that have gone out. Not for fat old guys either, just guys that have gone out and got like beyond exhausted walking or slugging in it, and they have to sit down for a while and then walk like 50 yards and sit down, walk 20 yards, sit down. And I've heard a few horror stories about that over my life. And of course, people get, they go out with the kids, they bring the kids out, the kids get soap, and they've walked out 400 yards onto the lake. By the time the kids don't say, "Hey, I just got wet, I'm getting cold," they wait until hypothermia sets in, and then they tell you, "I need to go back to the truck." But it's like anything else. It's common sense and safety. I can't believe the number of people I've witnessed with my own eyes this year walk out onto ice. And I'm not talking where you've walked that path and you're on a lake and it's 18 inches now. Like I have a buddy of mine driving on a lake just north of here, and he said to me, he said 20 inches of snow or of ice, and so that 20 inches of clear black ice is going to hold up just about anything.
Absolutely.
He's out there. I know one thing we used to do when there was a lot of slush too, and it was something I got years ago from Will, and years and years ago. I think it was before I met Will. I read it, and he mentioned about putting the plastic bag inside your, if you run into it really bad, it's not good because it does cause your feet to sweat. But if it keeps them dry, if you happen to get into it bad, it doesn't take long to slip plastic bags inside your boots and have that just so your feet don't get wet.
We used to do it, Jim. We used to do it in construction. When it wasn't pay week, and you ripped a hole in your construction boot. You bring a Loblaws bag with you that you picked up on the weekend from grocery shopping, and that all of a sudden
we had
brand new
beer store bags. No.
That's it. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, absolutely, you're 100% right. Jim, one question I do have I'd like to ask you is when it comes to that slush and the water on the ice. Now, obviously when you drill a hole, it has a tendency to flow back into the hole. Does that provide an advantage when it comes to fishing because you have that run in of sort of warmer water?
I remember being out on the big Rito one day years ago, and I drilled a hole, and as the day progressed, and it was beautiful out. It was like 50 degrees. It was a beautiful day out. It was awesome, in fact, and we caught a ton of fish. It was just offside day. So we go back the next day, and there's a real safety factor with this. I don't think it's going to draw fish. It just isn't enough of a factor, I don't believe. Okay. But we went back, and that water that was, the water was in the hole going around like this. You could see little bits of snow and ice. It was just barely turning, eh?
Yeah.
The next morning we went back out. Of course, I followed my tracks out. I'm going back to my same hole because I caught a pile of fish out of it. I'm going to go back and fish in the same area. And I get there, and my hole is like 6 feet across. And now the water is going like this off the lake. And you want to talk about something like that being dangerous? I don't know if other guys have seen that. I know a couple of guys who have, and it seems to happen in the same areas. I've heard about it happening because I had mentioned this to a couple of guys, and they said, "Were you in front of the beach by any chance?" And I said, "Yeah, I was." And they said, "Yeah, we saw that happen there years ago." And I don't know if it's got something to do with the flow pulling the water, or if the water's dropping. Obviously, the water might be dropping in the lake. Have they opened the dam and they're sucking a little bit of hydro through, and causes some movement, so the water gets going down the hole. But when you're on 35 inches of ice, and it opens your hole up from 8 inches to like where you could have a hot tub, you know what I'm saying? You could be swimming in it.
Yeah.
You could go for your freezer dip, your New Year's Eve cold there.
Yeah.
It's that's scary stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Scary stuff. Yeah.
And as Mike, it happens a lot when ice fishing rivers, no doubt at all, Mike. I get, yeah, absolutely. Anything that speeds up the flow of water, or at least the turning of water, would amplify that big time. Absolutely.
So we used to fish the Ottawa River years ago with the hydro dam there just behind Parliament Hill there. We had some areas close to there that we used to fish, and you'd be on 15, 18, 20 inches of ice, but you were like 50 yards away from open, like 5 mile an hour, 6 mile an hour water. And I mean, it's frozen to the shore. It's not like when you're in a big lake, it's going to go somewhere. I mean, this is the middle of the winter. I've actually seen days where the water was coming this far out of the hole when you cut it, and other days where you cut the hole and you look down and the water's this far down the ice into the hole. And that's all created by the hydro dam. So that movement up and down on lots of water, you got to be careful and be aware of stuff like that.
Absolutely. I don't know. I see the odd post here and there about people.
Yeah, I see that. The guys, yeah, Mike, they're saying 6 went to 12. Yep.
Fishing outflows of geothermal plants and hydroelectric plants and this, that, and everything else. I don't know. I anywhere there's an outflow, a good strong current of outflow of warm water. Yeah, I don't know, man. That doesn't sound like fun to me.
Hey, want to see something really cool I got on Saturday?
Let's do this.
A buddy of mine painted these.
Wow, look at the lateral line on that.
Isn't that sweet? I don't know if you can see the reflection of it, but it looks so simple. It's so simple. I put some nice triple grips on it.
Yeah.
have to give that a shot out the back there for something to do in the spring. And of course, a lot of noise. He sent me 2 too, so I'm lucky.
Now, is that blank from Jackal? Like, is that a Jackal blank or?
No, I don't think so. One of them, he gave me one a while ago that was a repaint of a Jackal lure. I had given, in fact, he brought these because I showed him the chubble.
Yeah.
And I caught so many fish with the chubble, and he said, "Well, it gets it easy, you know, they're that kind of things." But he's a guy from Oshawa. He's just a great guy. His name's William Jones. You look him up on Facebook. He does some painting. Man, that's something. I can't believe how many people are out there now that are painting lures. Yeah. And I mean guys that are like serious about this stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that they're painting is offside.
We are, I'll be honest with you, Jim, a great segue to to talk about one of our sponsors, but Y'all Eye Lures and our good buddy Chris. Some of the designs that he's coming up with the Y'all Eye Lures is truly incredible. I had no idea there were so many different patterns. And he said, Scott, those are just stock patterns. There's the custom ones, which you can attest to. There's so many people out there painting certain custom colors and custom patterns and what have you. But we got some, I'm telling you, we have some really good small, I would say, basement or garage dwelling tackle producers that are now soon to evolve into large scale. I'm not really sure what is going to be that tipping point, but for instance, Y'all Eye Lures, they're a big name on Lake Erie, and Chris keeps pumping out great stuff. But you're 100% right, Jim. There's some great painting going on.
See this?
Oh, I wouldn't even want to fish with that.
That guy won the championship in the U.S. for painting. He won the championship in the U.S. and I contacted him and I said, "Hey, Big Jim, I'll send you one of those." So he's got these custom painted, and he sent me 4 of them.
Jeez.
I've only used this one. I keep putting it away, but I got other custom painted stuff here. Like some people just have a knack for this. Like, look at some of this stuff.
Incredible. Yeah.
Like it's just absolutely incredible when you see some of the stuff that these people are doing, what these baits, look like. But like I said, he always laughs at me when I tell him I'm not a big fan of that supernatural looking stuff. If I've got something with that looks a bit like a bait fish or something that has a bit of a chartreuse on the belly and a black back, I'm happy with it. I've caught too many fish with that, and that it works. And I'm also not a big guy on that match the hatch type stuff and other stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
I know it's something that's real at times and everything. I think it's it seems to be more with fly fishing when they get these little hatches of bugs and they're just eating them wild.
Absolutely.
But something else I worked on in the last little while, I've been working on for a while, I've wanted to do, and I had to get a mold. So I wanted to make, been talking to Pete Bosselman from Dadson Jigs. I wanted to make musky jigs for ripping. That's an A-dot. Oh, where are we? That's an A-dot VMC hook in there. But I made the first ones that I tied up. These things are about 7 inches long, and they're heavy. That one there is a 2-ounce head. That's a 2-ounce head on that.
My shoulder is literally burning just thinking.
I get bit off so much rip jigging for walleyes. I can't imagine when we get this stuff going. And when I was talking with Pete the other day, Bosselman, the Dadson guy, I mean, he's onto it too. He wants to do them, so we started doing them with marabou too. And wow. It's a reaction thing. I mean, and it's got the eye at the front for ripping. You got the eye at the front for ripping, but with that hook in there and everything, the number of muskies you catch rip jigging for walleyes, or you go to rip it and it's gone.
It's gone.
You get bit off. Well, you get a proper leader on this, and you start jerking that through the weeds on buckhorn or pigeon or whatever. And when you get hooked up, you're going to get the fish.
Now, you chose a stand-up head design with those hair jigs as opposed to, the more traditional banana head. What was the decision making on that, Jim?
Just it was what was available that I could find.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very hard to find. The one that I did find was discontinued, and my buddy Chris Bain painted these up for me. He's having a hoot doing painting. He's discovering all kinds of new stuff and everything else. So it's pretty cool. But I showed some of this stuff to guys on the weekend, sent them pictures, and they just send you back a note. How much are they going to be? I'll take 10. Send me an assortment.
That's
Because
awesome.
they're guys that want a rip jig, and there really isn't much available. There is some, but it's hard to find. We have to get it out of the States. I honestly don't believe there's a person in Canada even thinking about doing that. And
I
would have bought them years ago if they were out there. And I'm also working on finding an 8/0 or a 9/0 long shank hook that would go into the mold with a flat eye on it, so you could put a chatterbait blade. And I've got some chatterbait blades that are about 2 inches by 1 inch. So we have a chatterbait for muskies too, something that was seriously the size, So it's a lot of work getting a little plan like this, a project, and doing it. And I mean, I'm not a lure company. I'm a guy who has a hobby that got out of control, and I still have to make a living, and it ain't from making sure.
But listen, at the end of the day, Jim, what's so cool is for as many years as you've been in this industry, you're still having the forethought to think about new things, new ideas. And dude, that, as I said, I can't say enough. That's a true testament to the kind of character you are and the passion you exude and help mentor and promote with us everyday anglers who look up to you. But man, keep up the great work, dude. Don't change a bit.
Appreciate it.
Listen, thanks as always for joining us on Monday. We look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, bud, stay safe, enjoy the gym, and pump some iron.
Always, buddy.
Okay, buddy. You take
care.
Take
care, pal. Everybody out there, be safe, eh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. And before we bring in Lawrence, here is a quick word from our sponsor. The big one, Cutbait Company, a good segue for Lawrence Gunther tonight because we are going to be talking salmon, and there is some breaking news, Lawrence. Give us an update on what's going on.
Well, the Public Fishery Alliance in British Columbia have issued an open letter to the Minister of Department of Fisheries and Oceans and Coast Guards and all that, saying that, you've got a mandate to keep fisheries open and to use a science-based policy to keep those fisheries open. We need some opportunities here, and they're hurting, right? This is, I'll try to get the dates right here. In 2017, they went from being able to keep 2 fish down to 1. And in 2019 and 2020, that was reduced to keeping no fish. Okay. And they're saying, look, if this happens a third year in a row in 2021, they're going to lose a lot of things that keep those coastal communities, those fishing communities alive, right? These are communities of anglers, of public fishers who've been doing this for generations, who count on this, who count on tourism, who count on being able to go out there and catch some fish to feed their family, to make some money. It's their way of life, is to pass it on to their children. And they have been talking to scientists that to make sure it's possible, but it's complicated, Scotty. It's complicated.
Well, listen, when it comes to the West Coast, that is the underlying theme.
Yeah,
it is complicated, and there's usually political agendas that are associated along with it. Tell me where DFO lands in all this.
So, they've been getting a lot of pressure to save Chinook salmon, save the southern orca whales, the killer whales, to save salmon in general, to rebuild the salmon stocks in the Fraser River, to clean up that landslide that happened on the Fraser River, the Big Bar landslide. And they're into that now, I think, for the tune of like $59 million to get that thing sorted out. And then all the habitat and the climate change and the coastal wetlands. There's a lot of pressure on them to develop some plans and to make things happen. And there's a lot of pressure on them just to shut things down. Like I've interviewed probably at least 40 to 50 people in the last 11 years on this topic. Everyone from hardcore environmentalists to First Nations chiefs to scientists from all stripes and locations, to guides, to anglers, to you name it. I've interviewed them, and there's people who just say, look, the only chance we got is to shut everything down, walk away for 5 years. Hopefully we come back in 5 years and it's straightened itself out. Others are saying, well, we have a lot more science than that. We have a lot more science. Like Scotty, it's amazing with the tracking that's going on now and the fish identification. They know when and where these endangered Chinook salmon move through various parts of the coast en route to and from their feeding grounds, to and from their spawning grounds. And these Chinook will spawn in the spring, and then others will come in the summer, and others come in the fall. So there's like 3 different times of the year, different schools of Chinook. And then each river and tributary has its own school of Chinook that goes into those tributaries at different times of the year. So there's multiple variations of different Chinook. And they know where they're moving through and when they're moving through and how to avoid them. And they know when they're going into the territory of the orca whales where they feed on them and how to stay out of that territory. But mainly what these anglers are looking for, Scotty, is they want to catch the hatchery fish. The Americans cut the one little fin there, and so they know what a hatchery fish is in the United States. The Canadian hatcheries, they only cut the fin on about 10% of the fish going back, so it's not as easy to tell. That means, 90% of those ones get put back because they think they might be wild. But the ones that are hatchery fish, it's kind of like a put and take fishery, right? I mean, these fish are put there to support the fishery. That's what the point of the hatchery is. The idea of rebuilding wild fish stocks using hatcheries, that's sort of an idea that's sort of losing ground, because really you got to be breeding the fish that are going to, and put them back into that river. You got to catch the fish from that specific tributary and then put them back into that tributary if you're going to rebuild wild fish stocks. What these guys are doing is they're just taking a generic Chinook salmon, breeding the crap out of them and putting them in, and then it's a put and take fishery. Those fish, if they mix in with the wild Chinook too much, they'll start to water down that DNA and take the variation out of that DNA of all those other fish stocks, the wild fish stocks. So that's not necessarily a good thing. So yeah, the hatchery fish is what they want. They said, let us keep some hatchery fish. We'll avoid the wild fish. And to top it off, Scotty, the DFO scientists are behind this, right? They support this. Now they just have to get the minister on side.
So this is, I don't want to say a 180, but it seems to be a change in direction for DFO. But a good change of direction, because I think everybody who lives out in BC who has a vested interest in the salmon will say that, one way to rebuild it is to have a hatchery on every major run, to do exactly what you're saying, to imprint and to maintain that strong genetic strain that is key and vital to keeping those major runs open and vibrant. But the other underlying aspect to all this, a lot of people may not know this when it comes to the salmon, but there is a fascination and a movement when it comes to protecting the orca. And make no mistake about it, protecting the salmon goes hand in hand with protecting the orca, and that plays a key role in all of this decision making, does it not?
So let me talk to you a little bit about this. I talked to the lead scientists out there from the Marine Mammal Institute, the University of British Columbia, and they've been tracking seals and otters and sea lions and fish and orcas. That's their job. So they, not so long ago, they went out with their big tracking vessel all set up with sonars and cameras and drones, and they traveled to the north end of Vancouver Island, and they encountered what they call the northern resident killer whales. So these are the ones at the north end of the island. These are the ones they're sushi eaters, they're fish eaters, right?
Yeah.
And they're 300, 350 plus strong and growing. That pod, it's a bunch of pods. There's a number of pods that make up that northern, those northern residents, and they are actually expanding in numbers and fat, healthy orcas, fat, healthy killer whales with happy, babies doing very well. It's those southern resident killer whales that are struggling, and have been, according to their records, have been struggling for probably 100 years. And, never getting their population numbers up, dipping back down again, popping up a little bit, dipping back down again, but never really being able to turn it around. And for whatever reason is what's stopping them. There's just a bunch of things that are making it difficult. And these are the ones that hang around down at the southern end of Vancouver Island, where all the ferries are, all the yachts are, all the whale watching boats are, all the pleasure boats, a lot of fishing pressure, a lot of freighters, and they know now, a lot of these orcas are killed by ship strikes. That happens too, for sure. That's a big killer. And just for them to be able to deal with the noise, it's just, they hunt through noise and they listen for the schools of fish, and then they zone in on, they talk to each other and they hunt them down and they circle them. And when you have a lot of noise going on, it's very difficult to do. So there's a lot of things that are working against the southern orcas, and they've documented all this Marine Mammal Institute. And not only that, Scotty, but the northern residents are starting to push down south and pushing the southern residents out of their territory. Now, these orcas are there for 3 months a year. They disappear for the other 9 months a year. They don't even know where they go. Like where they go, the rest of the other, they go down to California, and that's even worse down there, right off Oregon and California coast. Their salmon populations are really suffering, so they have a hard time finding, those super nutritious, high fat content Chinook salmon. They're just not down there, so they're eating skinny, nasty, rotten, fish that just don't give them the fat content that they need to be thriving. So
sorry, Lawrence, to cut you off. It's almost hard to believe, given my age and your age and what have you, and of course when it comes to salmon fisheries, there has been no better historically in my eyes that I'm aware of than the BC coast, or at least the Pacific Ocean. Let's face it, the northern reaches of the U.S. and the U.S. Pacific coast, as well as our BC coast. Those salmon fisheries have historically been vibrant, strong. It's almost hard to believe that they're not that way anymore.
You go further north, and it's better, but it's not all better. Like the Yukon, there's been no recreational Chinook fishery on the Yukon now for 2 or 3 years. Just not enough fish. And that's a 3,000 kilometer river, and there's just not enough Chinook coming in there. The native, indigenous people don't hunt them. They don't trap them. They don't catch them. It's, maybe one for ceremony, but that's it. It's not a food fishery. They bring in other fish from other parts. But there are healthier, definitely healthier Chinook fisheries up and down the coast, especially as further you go north. And then, so you can still fish sustainably, but that's not where the people normally are, right? That's where more the lodges and resorts are.
Yeah.
Then you get further south where the people live. And these are the people. This is the Public Fishery Alliance. These are the people that, live in the southern half of Vancouver Island, around the Fraser River, along the coast there. And these are the people that say, look, we've got these hatchery fish. Just let us go catch some of these, right? This is important to our culture. It's important to our way of life. It's important to our community, our economy, and it can be done sustainably. And so I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the Prime Minister did put in the mandate letter to the Minister of DFO in 2019, keep fisheries open, do whatever it takes to keep fisheries open using science. And the Minister of Fisheries is saying, look, we did some experimenting on this last year in 2020, and what these anglers are telling them using their local knowledge and have told those scientists, and then the scientists went and tested this. Turns out that the anglers are right. It can be done.
Well, and that's great that we hear angler input when it comes to these kind of decisions. And let's face it, I think all avenues should be looked at and exercised when it comes to finding answers. Because as much as it is science, it's a lot of what we see. And anglers who are on the water on a regular basis, like Cliff and Jake are out on our west coast, they see it firsthand. Because they've got their sonars, they're pinging fish, and they're seeing the schools as they are, where they are, and where they're going. Steve Shaw brings up a great question. Are you saying, so when you were talking about genetic Chinook being stocked, are you saying that hatchery smolts aren't imprinting on the river that they are released in?
They may, but then you're putting another strain of Chinook that's now competing for that territory with the original native fish that belong there, right? So now they're getting pushed out, or they're having to compete, and then you're putting maybe an inferior grade. So here's what you got when you got all these different Chinook. You've got Chinook that run at different times of the year, Chinook that like different temperature water, Chinook that prefer cold or hot, murky or clear, all these different things, and their base, it's all in their DNA. And you have one sort of run for each type. So as the conditions are changing now, with heavier rain, warming water, all deforestation, you have all these changes happening to the environment. Some of these strains are going to succeed, and some of them are going to fail. Okay. But if you make a monoculture out of the Chinook and say make them all the same, and you throw your dice, and it turns out, you called it wrong, that's one big wipeout, right? It's like putting a whole forest of pine trees, and then a pine beetle comes along and just kills them all. You got nothing else. Yeah. So that's why you need the variation. That's why, like large scale hatcheries, like the Russians are doing, they're just pumping those fish up into the North Pacific out of Siberia, and they go into the big gyre there and eat all the food that the other Chinook go up to eat. And then you have the big seiners going up in there into the international waters. And between the seiners, they pull out 50% of the Chinook salmon that Canada harvests every year on the West Coast. And then the big gill netters take out another 25%. So that's 75% of the salmon on the West Coast are taken out by these commercial boats. And I won't mention names, but they're all owned by one guy. One guy owns all the big commercial fishing boats on the West Coast of Canada. So you got 25% of the fish left. Now they said, according to the 2016 data, DFO data, about 10% of the salmon harvested was the public fishery. And out of that 10%, about 0.5% of what the public fishery harvested was endangered Chinook. 0.5%. So the other 15% would be maybe, indigenous fisheries, right? As ceremonial or moderate income kind of fisheries, those kinds of things. But 75% going to the commercial, 10% left for the public fishery, and only 0.5% are endangered Chinook. So they're not the smoking gun. This public fishery, the guides and the anglers and the wrecked boats and all that, they're not the smoking gun. They're not the problem here. And it's people want to point their finger at them because they see these boats and they see these anglers and they think, well, that's the problem. That's the problem. But these, when you're fishing very specifically and you're doing selective fishing with a hook and line, it's not like a net full of fish that have just had the crap crushed out of them and they're all dead. Right. And you can't put them back. Or a gill net that's killed them all because you wrecked the gills. You can't put them back. So this is a selective fishery. And if they're fishing at the right time in the right location, they're intercepting schools of fish that they know are not endangered species. They are hatchery fish, or they're stocks of wild stocks that are in good shape. So they can be very selective that way. The closer you get to the rivers, the more selective you can be, and the more you can, okay, this is the spring. These are ones that need to go forward. No fishing these guys, or these you go over there now. Leave these ones alone. Get out of here for the next 2 weeks. Go over there and fish those fish. That'll be fine. And so they can do that. And with GPS and with the technology we have, real time technology, it's totally doable, right? These public fisheries are saying, we can do this. We have the technology to do this. Just tell it. We'll work with you. We'll work with you.
Well, and obviously, seeing some of the comments that are coming up here, it is the biggest component to all this, and the common denominator is a balance, the proper balance. And, obviously out on the West Coast, sea lions are taking a lot of salmon. And of course, there's not really much out that way to keep their numbers down. And I was absolutely just amazed at the sheer size of these creatures. And all you can think about is how many salmon did that thing eat to get that size. And then, of course, we on our East Coast, as Scott Martin is mentioning, of course, a lot of the seals are doing the exact same thing when it comes to the Atlantics and the salmon, as well. So,
but especially when they get into these pinch points, right? Like, you have these sea lions that hang out at the foot of the fish ladders. So the salmon coming down the fish ladder or going up the fish ladder, they have to congregate there, and then the sea lions just intercept them. And it's happening on the East Coast too. You have seals that are hanging around in rivers, intercepting the smolts coming down the rivers, the Atlantic salmon coming down the rivers to go back into the ocean, and they're perfect snack size, 5, 6 inch fish. But you know what? That's great. A great place for the great whites to come to. Now they figured that out. You want to go catch a seal? You go into the river mouth there, because that's where they're all hanging out, right? So they're
so let's go great whites. Let's pick up our game a little bit, eh? We need to eradicate some of these seals. We need to do it naturally.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening.
Great topic. And of course, you and I have talked about the sharks and where they're showing up in unique places on a regular basis. This is a constantly evolving story, and I'm so glad that you're keeping us up to date with it, because it is becoming a well-known story. It is a fragile fishery in some cases when it comes to the BC and the BC coast. So thanks for doing the homework on this, Lawrence. But in your Feel the Bite segment, really interesting, you're talking about silence. You're talking about reels that offer that stealth approach to how they work, how they operate, how they provide something unique to the anglers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have Shimano spinning reels and other spinning reels that go back, 40, 50 years. I have some reels that were made in France, some old Garcia, the Mitchell 308. Yeah. They were made in France, like clocks, like fine watches, right? And they seemed like great reels at the time. But what we're getting in the last 3-4 years, first with the Shimano X ship, where they put that extra bearing on the pinion gear there, where the handle goes through the gears, and now with this direct silent drive, it's tightening everything up. There's no wobble left in the handle. When you move the handle back and forth, there's no slack. When you turn the handle, there's no you hear no grinding. The spool is balanced. The arm is balanced. The gears are balanced. So you have zero vibration, zero wobble now in the reel. You got this perfect balance that happens when you spin the handle. So for me as someone, I was never liked spinning reels that much, because you had to have one hand on the rod and one hand on the reel handle, and you got the pickup spinning around, looping around. You can't touch the fishing line when you're reeling. And I love to touch the fishing line. I'd rather fish a push button reel so I can touch the fishing line, or a bait caster. But these, because I just need to touch that line. But with these newer reels now, more and more, I don't need to anymore. I'm feeling that line, especially when I'm using Power Pro, like the braid, the zero stretch. So that braid is 100% transmission. 100%. There's zero stretch absorbing. There's no shock absorber in that braid, taking away the sensation of what's being transmitted up the line through the rod, right into the reel and right into the handle of your reel. And the rod is your sensing tool when you're not reeling.
Right.
But when you're reeling, it's the reel. And if you point the rod tip straight at what you're reeling, the rod is completely out of it's not in play at all anymore. But you don't want to do that. You want to have a little bit of action and the rod to absorb and set the hook. Otherwise, you're really just setting the hook with the reel when you point that rod tip straight at it. But you're feeling everything. That line is going straight onto the reel, and you're feeling things now. You're feeling ticks and taps and bumps and bangs just through the reel. And it's what's happening at the end of your line. It's not what's happening in the reel anymore. The reel is no longer, remember, it's like an old radio with all the fuzz and hiss and static and pops and clicks.
Great analogy.
Yeah, it's digital now, man. It's digital. It's pure, clean sound, right? Pure, clean sound. I love it.
So now, Lawrence, for those who don't know, Lawrence has a vision disability and relies heavily on his other senses when it comes to angling. Right now, he's describing something that I find really interesting because I've never even thought about it. And a lot of what you bring to our CFN lives is stuff that we don't necessarily think of because we have our sight. And sometimes, Lawrence, you remind us that we do take it for granted. But what you're saying is you can now feel more in a reel. It's not a lot of clutter and feedback like it used to be with some of the older stuff. So are you using the rod at all to sense some of the ticks and taps and what have you, or is it just strictly the reel?
That's the beauty of it. I mean, the rod, if you put that little bit of bend in the rod, you're going to be able to watch your rod tip, move with the lure, with the action of the lure, the pulse of that rod tip with the action of the lure, and the bend of the rod tip when you're ticking and tacking. It's a visual thing, right?
Right.
But you can also now, if you take that out of it by putting your rod tip more towards the fish, what you're reeling towards, you're getting direct communication now right into the reel, and I'm loving that. And I find I'm setting the hook with the reel. I'm setting the hook with the reel more. I'm not using the rod anymore, like to set the hook, and that's not bad when you're using a fine wire finesse gear. Having that zero stretch, having that reel, and then you feel it right away, and just that little turn of the handle. There's no stretch, there's no give, there's no shock absorption. So it's a solid hook set. It's like you're just pushing that hook right into the fish's mouth. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. And then what you need to do right away is lift your rod and slack off your drag. And I find that it makes it a little more challenging, but I'm more effective. I'm having a better hookup ratio. I'm losing less fish on the bite because it's an instant hook set. There's no delay of you having to wind up, set the hook, get past that soft tip, because that soft tip bending over, there's no hook setting going on when that's happening. You've got to get into that butt section of the rod for that rod to start to set the hook for you. So by keeping your rod down and reeling, a half turn, it's a solid driving of that hook right in. And then you slack off the drag, pick up the rod, and the fight's on.
Well, you know what? And Mark asked the obvious question, great question. So do you use a shorter rod now that you're using the rod more as the means of setting the hook and what have you? Because obviously, having that perfect rod necessarily doesn't meet your requirements, because what you're kind of flipping the script on things, because of course everybody thinks that a good rod is the most important aspect to a good setup. But what you're saying is you might go to a shorter, less sensitive rod then. Is that possible?
Shimano still makes a lot of 5-foot 6-inch medium heavy and heavy action spinning rods for walleye. Like that's a heavy action 5.5-foot spinning rod, right? People still love them. They love them for exactly what I'm talking about. But these were rods that were created in the day of monofilament, when monofilament was the only deal in town. And you wanted to sort of get away. You had to deal with the stretch of the monofilament. You had to deal with the fiberglass in your rod. Everything was working against you in terms of hook sets. The monofilament stretch, the fiberglass rod bent over like crazy. Nothing was giving you that good hook set. Never mind the hooks weren't that sharp back, 20, 30, 40 years ago either. So now I go with a longer rod. I like to control my fish. it really, when that rod is pointed straight at the fish, whether it's 5 feet or 8 feet, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because it's totally not part of the game anymore. Also, what you're doing is you've got the reel, the handle holding the reel, and the line going to the fish. The rod is doing nothing. It's not until you lift the rod back up that you engage the fish. And then you've got the fish, you've got that rod, you've got the bend to absorb those sudden pulses of the fish, those head shakes of the fish trying to tug at the by the boat and explode. You can get the fish away from the trolling motor, over the outboard motor, or away from the ladder, all of that stuff, right? That's why I like a 7 foot, 7'2" spinning rod. I still use 7 foot plus spinning rods on the boat. I just use them in two different ways, right? I'm using it. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, buddy, as always, you bring a wealth of information and stuff that we may not think about and we take for granted. I'll be the first one to admit it. You bring us back down to earth and make us appreciate what we have in light of your disability, which to me isn't much of a disability because it certainly isn't holding you back, Eddie. What have you got upcoming? Mike is actually Scott Martin was asking, do you ice fish?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, Scott, one of the funniest stories I've heard here on CFN Live was when Lawrence's buddies left him out on the ice to fend for himself as they were warming up in the car. But
I just sold that article. I wrote the article. I sold it. I got 6 cents a word.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're absolutely right, Sean. I don't think there's anything that Lawrence isn't capable of. So as always, buddy, thanks so much for joining us each and every Monday, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, and look out for the Bluefish news. It's coming out in the next couple days. You're going to see tons of articles, tons of great information there. All West Coast, big West Coast push on this this episode of the Bluefish news coming up.
Right on, buddy. Well,
thanks, man.
Thanks so much for doing this, and stay safe and have fun, my friend.
Thanks, Scotty.
All right, buddy. Before we bring in Jason, let's have a word from his sponsor. And where is it? There it is right there.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
J-Dog's in the house. How you doing, my friend?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Much like you, looking forward to some catching some Z's tonight. You've been hard at her and running around in that slush, man. It wears on.
Yeah, it's been. I was talking with a buddy on the weekend, and we were talking about, we're kind of reflecting on ice fishing, not that it's over yet, but it's winding down. Let's be honest. Even in Southern Ontario here, for us, the long range forecast isn't looking that great. I think, and the wind, what kills us down here where I am is the wind. Yeah. Once we get that warm weather above zero, they're calling for like 70, 80K winds this week. And so that might be the end of it for local ice. We'll see what happens. Now, some of the small ponds will keep ice, but Long Point Bay, fingers crossed, man. We had such a good day yesterday. I'm not going to talk too long about slush, but I had my experiences with slush on Saturday. Trevor and I went fishing up near London. It's only an hour from house, and met up with the Raytrowskis, and they stayed late and caught the crappie really well. We caught some nice bluegill, but we decided to bail early because we wanted to make a day of it on Long Point Bay, which we did. We actually fished from dawn till dusk yesterday, and we this is no joke, man. We caught easily over 100 perch yesterday. Now, if the Ontario fish off was open, we could have challenged for smallest fish several times yesterday. But you know what? We had a ton of fun. We set up in 6.5 feet of water. You could see the schools of perch under the hut in so clear water in Long Point. And you know what? We had to downsize the baits and make them work. But you know what? We brought home I think it was 15 was the final count. 15 perch around 9.5 to 10.5 inches. Nothing wrong with that. Nice, nice deal.
Absolutely.
Stephanie's birthday is coming up in a month, and she's asked for beer battered perch for her birthday. Specific request. So it's dad's gotta perform. So we've been stockpiling a little bit of perch for Stephanie's birthday.
We might have to. Do you have some beer batter, Jason?
I don't want to say in case she's listening to the but winky, we got it covered. Scotty's
right
outdoors, so don't worry.
Speaking of the Winter Fish Fest, and I appreciated your input when it came to the decision on when to open it, when not to open it, when to run it, when not to run it. You've played an integral part in some of the decision-making process that has come with the Winter Fish Fest, and you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, we had to do the right thing, and of course, the province was still in lockdown as of the 22nd. But we were still encouraging folks to go out and fish their local water holes, as you did, because it's all about fun. It's not necessarily about competing. It's about going out and enjoying the outdoors. So my point is, now that it's open as of midnight last night, some of the things, obviously, the GTA is still in lockdown, but your area is, I believe, is it gray that you're in, or are you in red?
I'm either red or orange. I have to double check. Yeah. So, the only two places that are in lockdown are in gray. It's in gray now. They're not locked down. They're in gray. Whatever it is. Yeah. It's Peel and Toronto. Everywhere else is open, at least red or better. So restaurants are opening for limited service, and I saw a couple. I saw the Legion in town is going to have somebody playing a band next week, and before things went bad, they had that going on, and very limited number of people, and inside they couldn't have more than, I think, 1/4 of the capacity of the room. All good news. So as ice anglers, let's take a breath. Okay. And let's go ice fishing. Okay. It's great to see all the fish being caught this weekend. I was thrilled to see all the fish being caught out west, especially and seeing their tropical weather, because it was minus, what was the temperature here Sunday morning? So Sunday morning, it was minus 16 when I left the house in Delhi. And I was laughing because I have colleagues in Winnipeg, and it was single plus digits there, so I don't know what to say. And last week it was minus 40 there. So they have lots of ice. We're not doing so good with ice, but we have enough ice. I'm going to tell anglers, go fishing, but be safe. Do it responsibly. Like let's just rehearse what we've been practicing and preaching. Hate to use that word, but it's kind of true this whole time. Don't make extra stops. Pack yourself a lunch. Bring yourself a thermos of coffee. Basically the only time I stop, honestly, Scotty, I make if I leave really, really early in the morning, I might go through Tim's drive-through for a sandwich and a coffee with Trevor. Because it's so early in the morning, out of respect for the girls. This is my personal choice. Mm-hmm. I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or sometimes we went to bed 3 a.m. in the morning to leave. We're not going to do that. Otherwise, everything is made here and we take it with us. We don't stop along the way. And what I try to do too is I get gas here, and I get gas when I get home, and I don't outrun my gas tank. And I'm really planning on going, because we're out of lockdown. Travel is not restricted, but I think we need to reduce our stops and be responsible. Now, what's the quote again? I don't have it in front of me for the fish off. It's
you got me. Let me get it. That's a great. I have it right here.
Yeah.
It is stay safe and be responsible, CFN.
So that's it. That's it, right? So I have a couple friends. I'm going to go meet them on Lake Simcoe. We're not going to fish in the same hut. We're going to go fish for yellow perch.
Yeah.
It's the south end of Simcoe is 2 hours from my house. I'm going to go fishing with them in a couple weeks. Cases are going to keep going down. Like I'm confident we're going to be good. And I really just want to go out and enjoy fishing, and I encourage people to do that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to travel far. You know, I'm not going to probably go, you know, more than an hour or two from the house, but that's all I've been going an hour from the house. That's like been my bubble, my fishing bubble for the past month, you know? And again, not making stops, being responsible, you know, but during that whole time still supporting small business, ordering tackle online if I need stuff. Big shout out to H&H Tackle in Brantford. They're the closest tackle shop for me. I try to support everybody that I can, but H&H is the closest. So he's been selling maggots and if I need minnows or any other kind of baits, and he's literally a personal shopper. Like I literally, what I worked out with Matt Purdy at H&H is I would actually message him on Facebook what I'm looking for. He messaged me back, and I'll say I'm going to be there in a couple days. When I'm leaving the house, it's 25-minute drive there. I text him. I'll be there in 25 minutes. Have my order ready. When I show up, the order's ready. Here's your maggots. Here's your couple of packs of lures. Tap and go. We both have a mask on. We're actually out in the parking lot, like Matt. And you know, I want to give as much service as I can to everyone, but Matt's the closest bait shop to me. Literally, even the ones in Turkey Point and Long Point, they're further from my house than the one in Brantford. And so shout out to Matt and keeping everybody safe and doing what he can. And, you know, but so many of the shops are doing such great curbside business, and we've been keeping them going and online. So let's just support them, but still do things safely. Wear your mask. Set a good example, please. Like, anglers can set. We are great ambassadors, especially CFN folks, for this industry and for this sport. So let's just keep doing that. We've been setting a good example all year, right? Dude, go back to it's 11 months since COVID first impacted us, right? We're coming on 1 year, and the CFN has been setting an example during that entire period to me. And this is just my words, not everyone else's. And, you know, let's just keep doing that. So during the Fish Fest, go ice fishing, enjoy yourself, but be responsible and encourage others to be responsible.
Amen.
Like, right?
Amen. So. And I have a shout out for Matt because we featured him today on Monster Monday.
Yeah.
There he is. Perch. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a decent. I don't know where he caught that, but that's a decent perch.
I think he was up on Simcoe on the weekend. I think that's where he went. So, yeah, shout out to Matt. You know, again, I like to spread the wealth around, and Matt's been my guy this winter. He's my closest shop to my house, and he's kept me on the water this year. So, and you know what? I love maggots as an alternative when it comes to pan fishing through the ice in the winter, and Matt's got them. So, you know, kudos to Matt. Thanks, Matt, for keeping me and the kids busy on the ice this year. That's been fantastic. And in fact, Matt's maggots helped us with those 100+ perch yesterday on Long Point Bay. So shout out to Matt.
Jay, that's got a nice ring to it. Matt's maggots.
Matt's maggots.
Matt's maggots.
Yeah.
So you've discussed travel. Obviously, pack a lunch.
Yeah.
As least amount of stops as possible, as infrequent stops as possible. So if you're stopping at Timmy's, make sure you've got some hand sanitizer with you, so you're not passing anything on to them, and they're not passing anything on to them. Make sure you're sanitizing your hands. Outside of the lavatory, which in some cases us men have an easier time than say the ladies, but try and keep our lavatory stops to an absolute minimum. Now, the travel you have discussed, which is the biggest issue. It has been since this all started. It isn't fishing. They didn't want to shut down fishing. It was the amount of travel. They wanted to restrict travel. Now, you've discussed travel. We have a division called the trifecta, which is any 3 species. I can't think of anybody who spends as much time on the hard water as you do to give some advice to our anglers when it comes to taking advantage. Lake Simcoe is one of those perfect examples of a body of water that can produce a trifecta for CFN anglers. What does a CFN angler do to utilize and maximize as much of their time as they have available to better their chances of getting that trifecta this time of year?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because if you can catch, it's 3 of anything, right? So if I was going after the trifecta, I wouldn't even go to Lake Simcoe. Like I would literally go to some of the small ponds close to home, which I will be doing this week to get the trifecta. Now I don't enter a lot of these contests. God knows I don't need any more fishing. Okay. And that's coming from up above, not God. Heather's somewhere up there. Okay. So,
God bless you.
anyway, but the kids are excited, you know, and they love entering contests and the trifecta. And so, you know, some of the local ponds, they're not big fish, but your chance of catching a bluegill, a yellow perch, a crappie, a pumpkin seed, a rock bass. Heck, the other night I lost a brown bullhead at the hole, which I didn't expect, right? So there's so many things you can catch. You know, I would just challenge everyone to, for the trifecta, I'm not going to drive far. I'm going to stay as close to home as I can. And in fact, I think my chances are better. Some of these little ponds and pits and quarries in southwestern Ontario, you know, that's your best chance because, you know, and even, I hate to say it, but I kind of like the small fish contest. Like I caught some perch yesterday that I might have to go back if the ice holds up. There's some small perch I saw in Long Point last week that I think I might have to go back with Matt's maggots. And I was using, so the tip I'll give everyone is we use the smallest downsize. We heard on our HT tackle night, you know, with Jim and Dave and Will, we heard all about downsizing, downsize. So yesterday, one of our tips was to give out to people is, you know, the guy down at the lake sells some of the nicest pinheads you've ever seen, Scotty. And, you know, like beautiful pinheads, like they're tiny. I was using the heads of pinheads. I was using a gourd pizer. I was pinching the heads off the pinheads and putting them on a 1/32 spoon.
Holy! That must have had that jig had hang time as it would fall to the bottom. Holy!
I
crap.
started out with it's perch fishing. I started out with some slab grabbers, some jig and wraps, some Johnny Darters, which is like a jig and wrap, and I'm using 3-pound mono and 3-pound fluoro on all my rods. That's pretty much what I use for panfish all winter long. And those perch would come in, and it's so clear. I don't have to. Now we're using a flasher, but literally, Scotty, I can look down the hole and see them. I'm just getting old, so I don't want to sit hunched over all day. Okay,
Might fall asleep.
I might fall asleep. I might have had a nap yesterday on my stool. No, I didn't.
Oh, that's funny.
Not with you know who beside me, because every fit he's like Kevin Van Dam, man, hooking into a 4-inch perch. But anyways, you know, so we downsize, and it was literally. I think it was, you know, I'm not sponsored by these guys, and I've been using their baits for years. Northland Tackle makes a forage minnow. Now they make the buckshot, right? They make the buckshot, but the forage minnow comes in a 1/16 and a 1/32 ounce size. And our best perch came on the 1/16 and 1/32 ounce forage minnow, tipped with one minnow head on one of the little treble hooks.
Wow.
And in my presentation on fish care, I talked about that little toothpick lure that you can get the small hooks out. That's the lifesaver. That's the best tool for tiny baits like that, because one, I don't have to wreck the fish. I don't have to damage the fish, wreck the fish to get that out. And two, I'm not wrecking those tiny hooks are small.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, that was the ticket on the weekend. And I've been getting a lot of messages from friends because I did post some pictures, and some of my local buddies are like, man, how'd you catch so many perch? We went out and we got skunked and we didn't catch very many. They weren't biting. I go, oh, they bit, but I had to go. It's been a long time since I haven't caught a perch on a slab grabber, Scotty, in either Simcoe or Erie. And they would bump it, but they would not bite it. It was too big. I was
going to ask you, you know, we're getting into late February. Is this when water temperatures start to get to that point of temperature where it slows these fish right down, that their metabolisms are almost in park mode, that they're not feeding? We're waiting for that transition of warmer water.
I think so. Like yesterday was a funny thing. Let me tell you about the day. And I always get my wheels turning about these things, and I overthink things, but that's my downfall when it comes to fishing. So what we did was we hit the lake at 7. The sun's coming up. It was minus 12, minus 13 when we hit the lake, and so we fished. There was no wind. It was like foggy, like that ice fog. Beautiful morning. The sun's coming up nice and red in the east, right? So anyways, we fished around, marked a couple of fish, did not mark much. So, and no one else, there was guys around us talk. You could hear sound travels on the ice, everybody. I heard guys saying how they're going to try and be quiet and not tell people what they're catching. I can hear every conversation you're having, by the way. So I was on to, like, I'm watching and I'm listening to everybody talk around me. I swear to God. So about 9 o'clock, though, Scotty, the wind picked up from the west just a little bit, and the sun came out, burned the fog off, and it got a little cold. So we set the hub up, set our big Eskimo up. From 9:30 till 1, double headers, triple. It could be at 4 rods, double headers, triple headers. I quit fishing with 2 rods because I was getting 2 fish at a time and I was getting tangles. I went to 1 rod because I was getting crazy. At 1 o'clock, the wind stopped, okay, and it changed direction. It went from west, switched to the east, and the bite died. Now, at the same time, about 1 o'clock, everybody in the county came out to Lake Erie to go ice fishing. So you had the wind change direction, and you had the traffic. And honestly, I went outside of the hut. It was a beautiful sight to see so many families ice fishing, Scotty. Like, honestly, I stood outside that hut, and I just crossed my arms, and I just sat there, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Like, we got 10, 12 perch laying outside of our hut. Trevor's having a good time, but outside the world is enjoying ice fishing, you know, and then we stayed until 6 o'clock because I'm like, we're here. We're making the day of it. Caught a few more fish. And even a buddy of mine from high school who I haven't seen in probably 5 or 7 years, he drove by on a skidoo, fished a hole. I didn't recognize him in his suit and his helmet. And he yells over, "Hey, buddy, you want a keeper? Got a keeper over here. I caught one. I don't know what to do with it. I'll take it." Comes over. "Hey, BARNUCZ, how's it going?" And I hadn't seen him in so long.
Way.
And Trevor says, "Is there any place you can't go that you don't know somebody when it comes to fishing?" I said, No, it doesn't happen. We're in the middle of Long Point Bay. But that's how yesterday went, man. It was just a nostalgic day. That's where I grew up ice fishing with my grandfather and his green F-150, you know, driving it out on the ice, sitting on the tailgate with a green 5-gallon bucket catching perch, you know, like that's how I grew up ice fishing. So to have that day yesterday was just great. And I'm really happy the world was out enjoying it with us yesterday.
See, so, dude, that's what it's all about, man. Like lockdown or no lockdown, COVID or no COVID. That's what it's all about. And thanks so much for sharing that story, because how you felt yesterday is exactly how I felt when I click on Facebook when we have one of our fish offs running and we get to see all the family entries. You know, I don't know. It makes it all worthwhile. I mean, obviously there's it's been much like the slush out on the hard water. It's hard to, you know, get through and walk over and walk through. Because you are going to get wet, you're going to get a little dirty, but decisions were made. And I'll tell you, when you get to see some of the family entries that were put forth on the CFN Fish Off Facebook page, makes it all worthwhile.
But you mentioned the slush. I'll give people some optimism here. We've had a lot of snow recently, and so on Lake Erie, though, where we were, because it's a pretty big lake, pretty open, the slush wasn't too bad in spots, but on smaller lakes, it's bad right now.
Yeah.
The warm weather this week is good for the slush. It's going to melt it. It's going to melt the snow. Okay. And there's a balance though. If it gets too warm, the ice gets weak too, right? Because we're getting into the spring temperatures. So a little bit of rain and a little bit of warmth is good to melt off that surface snow. Okay. And then we're going to be in a better situation as long as the ice underneath can hold up. I'm confident the ice will hold up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But us here in the South, we're happy for the ice we've received. Yeah. I would like it to hold up. I might go down to St. Williams or Port Rowan this week after work one night with the spud bar and the floater suit just to take a look and check. But there's so many people helping people down here right now. I mentioned it last week, like giving ice reports, giving technique reports. Like I felt yesterday when I got home, I needed to share the successes that we had with locals. There's actually a local chat board. A shout out to Stomp's fishing page channel. It's called Channel 68. If everyone uses a VHF radio, you know Channel 68. That's like your information. And these guys are on there all the time. And I ran into a good buddy coming off the ice that I haven't seen in a long time. And he said to me, "How come you're not on Stomp's page anymore? You don't go on there." I'm like, I haven't been on there for a while. I went on there last night and made a post, and I've rekindled some friendships over the last 24 hours on a fishing. Dude, this is a chat room. This is a forum. Remember the days of forums before Facebook?
Yep.
So talk about nostalgic. I'm fishing Long Point Bay, and I'm back on an old fishing forum that I haven't been on for a while. So, and all this comes down to sharing information and being helpful. And I can't say enough about there's been some negativity on social media recently, and I think the algorithm, it knows now that I don't like it. So my feed has been full of a lot of optimism and positivity. I'm probably saying that. So
listen, and that's what, with we're coming out of it. It feels better. It feels like a breath of fresh air. The gorilla's now off our back.
Yeah.
We can argue and debate whether it's too early, too late, until we're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, take advantage of it. Make sure that we're responsible when we do it, so that it doesn't get shut down again. Because I'll tell you, with this variant that's going on, I'm concerned about the variant. But needless to say, as dangerous as the variant is, so are ice conditions. And a great thing that you mentioned about the snow and the melting, as much as first ice can be the most dangerous because people are so amped to get out on the hard water, so is this midwinter ice where you have a snowpack that has done a great job insulating what is safe ice, but now is allowing that water to collect underneath. And unless you have that solid dark ice to begin with, we could have some of the most dangerous ice in the coming week.
Yeah. Like I know down at Fishmasters in Dunnville, they're having their annual, or what used to be their annual ice fishing walleye derby. They're going to have it on Saturday. And, with the rain, I saw the Grand River put out a forecast for high flooding, and I worry about that. So, I just hope everyone's safe out there and be vigilant. We're back to where we were a month ago, man.
Amen.
We're talking about ice safety. We've already flipped. We've just flipped the coin. Now we're back on the other side, and we got to be safe, and we'll get there. We're going to get there, and spring's coming, man. It's March in a week. Right? Like spring's coming. Like we can't, I'm happy for the ice fishing that I've got this year. And I'll travel north a little bit to get some more ice. And the long range forecast, if you're like a little north of Toronto, doesn't look too bad for the next few weeks. We're going to be fine. But hey, man, I got some walleye and some red horse to catch in March. So, if I have to get the long rods out and the short rods got to go away, that's okay. I'm good. I'm still going to go fishing. So
absolutely. And Nick Howard said it best. Yes, we are all extremely tired of COVID, and with no disrespect for those who have lost loved ones to COVID.
Yes.
It has taken its toll on all of us, not to mention those families, as I mentioned, who have lost loved ones. But I just want to get together, just like you, Mike, with all our fishing pals. It was the hardest thing in the world. I got invited out to Simcoe by Brad Frost and Mark Albeck and Christina, and Tracy came all the way down from Sudbury, and it was going to be a great CFN meet and greet out on Simcoe. Yeah. And we're in lockdown. I just couldn't do it. I know it would be sending the wrong message, and I could be quite simply a hypocrite if I did. So I appreciated that group for understanding, and they had a great time in the meantime. But yeah, Mike, I'm with you 100%, dude. We just want to get together. We just want to see our community, our friends, and our families. So absolutely.
But I'm gonna fire a few updates, and I want to give a couple of shout outs tonight. So I got I'm gonna drop something in the chat room here.
Okay.
And it's Keep Canada Fishing. So Yvonne mentioned the Canadian Sport Fishing Industry Association. So Keep Canada Fishing is their public outreach I say department, but their tangent. They're doing a survey on their website, COVID-19 survey. How did it impact your fishing in the past year? Fill out the survey, get your name entered into a draw for some fish and tackle. So it's about 10 questions. Jump into it. Another shout out I want to give is this week is actually Invasive Species Awareness Week.
That's right.
So what's all that mean? So there's actually, and very few people know about this, but I'm going to share this. Just going to open up my notes here. So the Invasive Species Center is located in Sault Ste. Marie, and it's one of the best sources for invasive species information. And that's not just aquatics, that's terrestrial invasive species, you name it, it's in there. And they actually offer, Scotty, they offer a ton of free webinars and all kinds of stuff on their website. And you know what? Like in my line of work, sometimes I kind of become a little complacent about who's offering what. And all their past webinars are available through YouTube that you can view anytime you want. And they talk about things like Phragmites, Asian carp, but also terrestrial invasive species. And it's probably one of the best sources for information, and it's Canadian made right here in Ontario in Sault Ste. Marie. So this week is Invasive Species Week. So it's a week to raise awareness about invasive species. Oh, and the last thing on there, which is really important for CFNers, is you can actually, on their website, you can report an invasive species. So if you're out and about, you don't have to message me, which I don't mind shooting messages. I don't mind fielding messages about invasive species. But you can actually download an app on their website or use their web app to report any invasive species that you've seen. And they track it and they communicate with you. So, you know, just something for everyone to use. And I think, you know, it's something that I'll be sharing some more information this week. And yeah, invasive species awareness. I think that's something that we forget about. So I just wanted to share that with everyone tonight. And I'll put some more links on my Facebook page and my website this week as well.
Fantastic. Tony had a question too.
Yeah.
The giveaway, your giveaway for the Spring Boat Show.
Well, so I was going to do that tonight, but I didn't want to take away from ladies' night. I'm not going to lie to you. I knew it was going to run over time, which it has, and I'm totally fine with that. So, Scotty, I want to do it, and I will do it, but we just have to. I looked at tonight, and I don't want to take away anything from Yvonne and make people sit here longer than they need to. I kind of understand there's a time limit and a threshold for these events. So let's do that. I'll send you the names this week, Scotty, and we'll put them on a wheel. And I got 2 bags to raffle off. Okay, so we'll do that. I want to give a shout out though while I have everyone here. It's my last shout out tonight. So this is Ontario Outdoors Fishing Annual. Okay, a lot of you guys are, if you're OFH members, you probably get this at home. There's a lot of information this month, but shout out to Jason Ford, my buddy from Caledonia, Ontario. He wrote this article called The Grand. It's all about the Grand River. And I want to give a little props to Trevor and I made the article. So that was fishing on the Nith River in Southern Ontario. Jason reached out to me. He said, I need some pictures for the article. I want you and Trevor to join me for a day. And we actually hiked, I think it was 7 kilometers. Like we went from bridge to bridge and we spent the entire day hiking the Nith River and didn't catch any giants. And actually that day, Trevor caught more than me. I have no problem saying I got outfished by the boy, which happens once in a while. That's why Alicia and TJ don't let Trevor come in all the time because he always outfishes people, that kid.
There you go.
But yeah, Jason Ford captured that great memory. And I just want to give him a shout out and, you know, pick up the article if you want to learn about the Grand River. And in fact, the Fishing Annual is one of my favorite issues because it's pure all about fishing. So walleye article with Tim Allard, sight fishing article with Gord Ellis, pick it up. It is a great read if you don't have it yet. The Ontario Out of Doors Fishing Annual. Yeah, Alicia calls Trevor the brat. When Trevor shows up, I think the other night, I think they're happy that we left them for all the crappie because Trevor would have cleaned that place out. Yeah. Yeah, he can catch them some days. I really got to say, I've been impressed with how he can do it. And he's figured out, he actually said to me yesterday, he's like, Dad, I actually kind of know when they're going to bite. I can hear the flasher. I can kind of see the fish coming in. And then I just have to watch that rod tip. My eyes switch from the flasher to the rod tip. I'm like, dude, you got to figure it out, man. That's ice fishing, right? You're tuned into that flasher, and then when that fish is coming up, when that mark's coming to your mark, he looks at the rod tip, and I'm like, that's all you got to do, man. That's ice fishing right there. So
that's awesome.
He's really become quite the little ice angler this year. And and a shout out to Vexlar. Had an issue with Trevor's power cable on his flasher. It still was working, but it's causing me some grief. Made a couple phone calls, and that even though ice season's winding down, they sent me a power cable, and I know things are on short supply. So shout out to Vexlar in Minnesota for getting that out to us. So yeah, man.
Right on. Well, listen, I know you're looking forward to laying down and catching some Z's. It's been a long weekend for you. We thank so much for the patience as you came on last. And you're right. It when it's ladies' night, it's always an action-packed show. We always have a host of great guests, and Rosie was no exception. Yvonne, again, she hits that mark, and I don't know who. Like, she set the bar so friggin' high. Yeah. I don't know, man.
I had no idea who Rosie was until tonight.
Right?
And like I love this. I love meeting people. Like, I love meeting these gems, Scotty, and you've introduced me to a few through CFN that I'm like, where have you been all my life? I network with so many people on social media, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy having networks of healthy, positive people. Yeah. And listening to Rosie talk, and Yvonne's brought some great positivity to this show. A lot of people do, but Yvonne, she has that. She has that gift. And she surrounds herself with positive people. That's one of Yvonne's gifts, and it's always been like that. Amen. And so to hear Rosie talk, and I'm like, I need to get to know her a little bit better. So I'm totally going to be checking her out on social media, because I just loved her. I loved what she was saying. I loved how she carried herself, and that's what it's all about, man. It's building relationships with those positive people. It really, really is.
Buddy, that's a mic drop right there, dude. I couldn't have said it better myself. But as always, dude, thanks so much for what you bring to this show. It's always a wealth of knowledge. We get our questions answered, and you provide us some good tidbits when it comes to how we're going to approach the Winter Fish Fest, how we're going to stay safe during the Winter Fish Fest, and how we might get that trifecta.
Yeah, and to sign off, again, thanks CFN for last weekend. I've been getting some great feedback from my Care for Your Catch show I did for the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. It's got like over 2,000 views.
That's awesome.
And I've had some people reach out to me that, I'm in line with. I don't keep score of the metrics and stuff, but I've had people tell me, they're like, man, you have crazy view counts, and I know a lot of it was from the support from everyone on this show tonight and others from the CFN Nation. So thanks very much for your support, guys, and I'm glad that video's out there for people going forward. Have a great night. Have a great week. Go fishing.
Amen.
And fun. See you later. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Jay. Well, you heard the man. Go fishing. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, as we're going to do tonight, just as we close, is we're going to try and promote and bring to light some of the entries that are going to be entered in the Winter Fish Fest. We're not going to get to all of them, so I apologize to those who we miss, but we are certainly going to do our best to try and promote you anglers and make this fun tournament even more fun, and bring to light some of you wicked anglers, so that we can all get to see you, get to know you, and get to see some of your catches. So in closing, I'm going to leave you with this montage from this past weekend's Winter Fish Fest, courtesy of the CFN Fish Off, and all of our anglers outside of the province of Ontario. We salute you and thank you for these entries. Enjoy your night, guys. All the best.
Alex Henry here with a cold eye ballot. Stay safe and responsible, CFN.
Hey, it's Victoria Deb Anderson with a lake trout for one of the thingies. Stay safe, CFNers.
Hi, I'm Pixie. This is for walleye. Stay safe, CFN.
Guys, it's Bill Allen. Stay safe, CFN. There's my burbot.
I've never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend.
CFN, here's my son Riley with the walleye. Son Noah with a fish. Stay safe, CFN. Stay safe, CFN. Now it's my son Eric with the walleye. Stay safe, CFN. Look at that.
Daryl Canelson here, Canosi. He's going for the smallest fish entry. Code is Stay Safe CFN.
Dalton Landry from Sass Fish Hunters. Got a little lake trout entry. Stay safe, CFN.
When I'm gone fishing.